So I'm only on this boat for a little while, and it's the first time I've taken a good look in the battery compartment. Not too happy with what I've found. First off, a lot of the wires and the connectors are untinned copper without heat shrink, which is it's not so bad here in the Great Lakes, but it's still a big corrosion problem. Definitely put on the ocean, it's going to be even a bigger problem. Additionally, a lot of these wires are just unnecessarily long. They just loop back over themselves and jam down in between to take up the slack, which adds unnecessary resistance to the system, but it's also just confusing when you're trying to keep track of things. On top of that, these are not maintenance-free batteries, so you need to check the electrolyte levels periodically. And one of my batteries is back up in here. There's really no way to get at it without taking this one out first. So that's kind of a bit of a nightmare there. Gonna make it harder to do regular maintenance. But the one that really got me, the one that I'm going to try to resolve today, is here. This battery's not hooked up, and hasn't been for the entire time I've owned the boat. I don't know when the last time it was hooked up was. So it's probably dead, but I'm going to look at hooking it up to a charger and seeing if charge it up, put it on an amp tester, and see if it's still got any life to it, and then I'll decide whether or not to put it back in the bank or not. The rest of these things, you know, replacing the cables and all that sort of thing, I don't know when I'm gonna. That's a bigger job. I got to plan that out a little bit more. So last night I rewired things to have that battery on charge all night, and this morning I hooked it up to this load tester, and much to my surprise, it tests out in the green all across the checks. So I guess I'm going to wire it back into line with the rest of the batteries and just count my blessings that somehow it survived a couple of months without charging. After doing some work on the batteries, I decided to come back here in the back and try to see what the state of the electrical is. I'm pretty overwhelmed. One thing for sure is I was told when I bought the boat, it was disclosed the water heater doesn't work. Now this is actually a pretty nice water heater because it can heat off of the coolant cycle in the engine, and when the engine's not running, it has AC, so when you're on shore power you can get hot water without running the engine. But I was told it doesn't work. It's been disconnected. You can see they just kind of loop the hot water line back to itself. The problem I have is the only way in and out of this compartment is this locker, and that won't fit. So I'm not really sure how this got in here in the first place. It might be original to the boat. I'm even less sure how I'm going to remove it if it is actually damaged or not working. But then I also have some chaos here. Some wiring hell all through here. I can't even figure out what. I think this mess over here is the autopilot. And you go back in there and you see, I don't know if I can get the camera on this. There's a big loop back in there. There's just a ton of extra wire. And there's speaker wire. I got wires that come up through here. For the life of me, I don't know where they go or what they do. Some of them look older. I just got a lot of work ahead of me trying to understand what all this is. A lot of it looks like it's not routed well at all. And it's very little of it is connected. I mean, it's just kind of laying there. It needs to be attached so it can't bounce around. So I gotta be honest, pretty overwhelmed. Got a lot of work to do here this winter. Since I was doing videos on electrical, I figured I'd wrap it up. This one is this last little bit is not. It's basically me looking at what I've got. This is the year before pictures. I really don't know what I'm going to do with all this, but this is pretty sure mostly original 1979 vintage. These are adorable. The Ampers one is especially fun because, you know, it's reading in the negative, and it always reads in the negative, so obviously completely useless. This is pretty obviously been added on. You can see we tracked down some of the fuses. Don't even do anything anymore. The more exciting one to me is the AC panel. I don't think this, again, this is newer, so I don't know if this didn't have AC originally when it was built or if somebody just replaced it. But, you know, I have the water heater, which doesn't work, and then the refrigerator, which now runs off DC, so I don't know where that wire goes. But it gets even more interesting when you look in here, and it's just chaos. You have bare AC wires over there. The AC grounds are just tied in a big knot, so that's not particularly good. There's a lot of work to do in here. And one of the things I'm debating is whether it's worth trying to rewire these panels and kind of clean things up, or if I should get a little more aggressive and basically rip everything out and redo it all. I don't know yet. Almost forgot one. So can anybody tell me what that is? You know, it's got 3 wires in it, or maybe more, I don't know. I don't remember. There's a bundle comes out, but it disappears back, and I haven't been able to actually trace down where it goes to yet. I have no idea. I just found nothing on board that connects to it. So I don't know what it ever was, if it's still hooked to anything. No information. So if anyone has seen that before and can identify it, I'd love to hear.